If you like our content, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get alerts when we introduce new videos. This video will demonstrate how to install the virtual RUCKUS IoT controller as a virtual machine using the VMware ESXi platform. We have other videos demonstrating how to install on other platforms such as KVM. The virtual RUCKUS IoT controller, or vRIOT as it is referred to, is a versatile, easy-to-deploy service and management component that allows for the integration of Internet of Things or IoT devices and IoT services for a wide range of use cases. It provides a robust, secure, scalable, interoperable, and well-managed general transport between IoT devices and cloud services. It is a highly flexible IoT transport for RUCKUS partners to integrate a wide range of IoT services and solutions for the enterprise and beyond. Before installing the IoT controller software, you need to download the IoT software first. To download the software, you would go to the RUCKUS support website and sign in with your support username and password and navigate to the vRIOT software. So I would navigate down to the RUCKUS IoT suite, and then I would determine whether I want documentation or the software download. I would select software downloads. And as if I scroll down, you'll see the various release versions that we have. If you're going to be doing a new installation, you will need to download the .ova file first. So in our case, we're going to select 1.5.0.1.21, and we're going to pick the OVA installation. Later, we're going to be doing an upgrade, so then we would pick a .tar file or an image upgrade file. So you would click on the release that you wanted, and then you would go ahead and download the software. Another important thing is the release notes. So if I go to the documents section, one of the things you want to make sure is that you download the appropriate release notes for the version of software that you're downloading. So here we see the RUCKUS IoT 1.5.1.0 release notes. And if you scroll down through this, you can see the documentation history, such as the MR1 patch releases and the publication date for these. It'll show you what's new in this particular release. And it'll also show you if there's any upgrades or patches that are needed for the version of software that you're downloading. So this is all important information before you install the software. So to install the software, I'm using a VMware ESXi platform. So I'm going to click on Create or Register the VM. So I'm going to be adding a new VM. I'm going to select the creation type. So I'm going to be deploying this from an OVA file. So I would select this, then I would select Next. You would give a name to the virtual machine. And I'm going to call this one IoT_art because it's going to be representing an art studio. Then you would click to select the files and drag and drop them in the window. So I'm going to click on this. So in this case, we're going to select our vRIOT 1.5.1.0.21 OVA, and I'll open that. And I'll drag it into that, and then we'll click Next. Next is to select the storage, and we're going to take the defaults on that. And I'll click Next. This is the license agreement. We're going to sign up for that and say I agree, and then we're going to click Next. So next we have the deployment options, and we want to take the defaults on the disk provisioning. We want to make sure that's thin. By default, it's on, power is on automatically. I'm going to untick that box and start that manually in case I want to make some adjustments before I launch the VM. Then I would click on Next. This is my summary menu. It says Ready to Complete, and then it says Do not refresh your browser while this VM is being deployed. All right, so I'm ready to click on Finish, and it'll go ahead and install the VM, and this is going to take a few minutes. And as you can see at the bottom, it's giving my completed percentage. So we'll wait a little bit longer. And after a little while, you'll see that it's complete successfully. Now I'm going to go up to this VM that I just installed, the IoT Art. I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to go to Edit. And what I'm going to do is make sure that my hard disk is set to 20 gigabits. And the reason I'm doing that is because if I looked at my release notes, there was a section in here that said that the size had to be 20 gigabytes. So I want to make sure that that size was 20 gigabytes. Back to my local. That looks good. So I'll click on Save. And so the next thing I want to do is to start my VM. So I'll click on my box over here. It'll bring up the IoT CLI. And now it'll ask me to provide my vRIOT login. And the default login is admin. And the default password is admin as well. The next thing we want to do is find out what the Ethernet address is of the VM. So I would type 1, and it'll show me that my IP address is 192.168.8.146. So that'll be the IP address that we browse into to initialize our IoT controller. So our next step is the initialization of the IoT controller. So we've logged into that IP address that I got in the previous step, 192.168.8.146. This brings us to the IO controller, so we need to do the initialization. For the first step is the required services, and we'll take the defaults on these. You'll notice that most of these are ticked. So we have the pub sub client, workers, identity and access manager, queue services, database, initializer, IoT device manager APIs, and then we have the rules engines and the track center are all ticked. So we'll go ahead and click next. Now we want to give the VM controller a name, so we're going to call this vRIOT_art. So the next is the IP configuration. By default, it's DHCP, but if we wanted to put in a static IP address, we could go ahead and do that, but I'm going to leave it at the DHCP. So next is the time zone, and by default, it says the Americas, Los Angeles, so that happens to be the time zone that I'm in. Set the time automatically using NTP is ticked by default, and then the NTP address, and that is an optional entry. So then we'll click next. Next, we're going to enter in a new password. By default, remember when we logged in, it was admin, so we're going to put in a new password, and then we can confirm that. And you notice here that it gives some requirements on the password. So it didn't like the one that I just put in, so I'm going to re-enter that. So then we enter in our new password, we do the confirmation of the password, and then we click on Start. We get the licensing agreement, we'll accept that and continue. And that'll take a little while to set this up. Then we'll get our RUCKUS IoT controller symbol. It says services are still starting. Please refresh the page after a few minutes. And then after a little bit, you'll get the logon screen, so we can put in the username and the new password that we had. And this will bring us to the RUCKUS IoT controller dashboard. So it shows that I have 5 AP licenses remaining, which is the default when you first install this. So you'll have 5 free licenses for the first 90-day free trial. So this completes our demonstration on how to install an IoT controller on a VMware ESXi platform.